Post Daily Dose. With me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide, and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Bryan+Post. Hope everyone is doing fantastic this evening. I hope you've had a great day. I've actually been snowed in today here in Oklahoma City. Woke up to a lot of sleet and snow, and so it's one of those days where everyone just stayed in the house and went out and bought a few groceries, but other than that, I didn't go anywhere. So I've had lots of time to just relax and rest and recuperate, as I am always praying and hoping and wishing for you all at the end of every Post Daily Dose. And so I was able to do the same. I would say that I am probably at about 90% back to full recovery and kick this cold and moving on, and hope to be getting back in the gym in the morning and getting back on track. So this episode is actually inspired by a coaching call I just got off of. And anytime, hey Heidi, it was 30 degrees. Yeah, we've been right around 20, 25, and hopefully it's going to warm up and not, Heidi says it's hot for her, for their neck of the woods. We've been around 25, 30. Hopefully it'll stay a little warmer so everything won't turn to a sheet of ice. Well, it's kind of what my concern is. But just got off of a coaching call, and so that inspires the topic of this episode. The one reason parents always miss their children's behavior meltdown cues. And it is a very common thing that I hear from parents. My child just exploded. Everything was going well, and they just started, acting out, or, we had a good day. They'd had a good day at school, and all of a sudden they said 3 words, and then boom, it was downhill from there. And that's a very common experience, and there's a really, really common reason for why that happens. And that is the topic of this evening's talk. There is something, maybe I call it a process in the attachment literature and the early childhood development parenting literature, and it's called attunement. Attunement is referred to as the dance between the parent and the child. It starts in utero for children who are biologically born, but with adopted children, foster children, it starts early in the process. Usually it takes about a 6-month period of time for a parent and a child to really get in sync, because that's what attunement is actually a synchronizing of the cellular system. And it is known as the dance. So it starts with infants. The infant cries. The parent is signaled in the brain to go and take care of the infant, and it's evolutionary in nature. It helps our survival, fosters our survival. The same way with a scream or with a cry, it signals the parent for protection, for nurturing, for care, for affection, what have you. Well, that becomes a very intimate dynamic dance, and that's the process of attunement. Well, the reason parents miss the behavior meltdown cues of their children is because of the counter dynamic called misattunement. When parents and children become misattuned, literally the hemispheres, the parents are operating from a left hemisphere, which is the thinking, rationalizing, cognitive part of the brain, and the child is operating from their emotional hemisphere. So literally, the children and the parent become out of sync. They become misattuned. So attunement is the connection. It's the dance. It's when you're in harmony. I like to call it being dialed in, being tuned in to a radio station. You get a clear signal. When you're misattuned, you get a lot of feedback. You get a lot of distortion. Misattunement occurs fundamentally. Let me tell you the reason why it occurs. Because of stress. Stress is the static in the radio station that causes us to miss our signal. It causes us to miss our cues. It causes us to misstep. It causes us to get out of sync. It causes us to not be attuned. Stress. When you as a parent become stressed, you typically shift from a left hemisphere focus and ability to be attuned and connected, because your right hemisphere, Your right hemisphere is what helps you get in sync. It's emotional. So attunement is very much an emotional dance. See, when you're stressed, you move over to the left hemisphere. So when you move over to the left hemisphere, you start trying to think through things. You start trying to make sense of things. You start trying to rationalize things. You start trying to analyze things. And the problem is, hey, there's my mom. I've been wondering where you were. Didn't see you last night, mama. Well, you start trying to analyze things. You start trying to figure things out. How's that pressure the son puts on his mother to expect her to show up at every Facebook Live he does? I don't expect it, Mom. I just love you, so I love seeing you. So the child the parent starts to rationalize and try to analyze things, but what we don't realize is that when we're stressed, the right hemisphere in our stress is actually dictating to the left hemisphere. That's where we go into the confused and distorted thinking. That's when we go into the suppressed memory. So we're actually not able to be in emotional connection and emotional synchrony with our child because of the stress that we're in. So stress is the number one reason why parents miss the cues of their children. And what happens? And a lot of times when the parent says to me, I don't know what happened, he just exploded. It's not that you didn't know what happened. It's that you weren't dialed in, you weren't tuned in. And this really happens with parents when they're walking on eggshells. When parents are walking on eggshells because of the stress in the home, then you're almost always going to be misattuned. You're almost always not going to be dialed in to the emotional temperature in the home. And I really like to think of that thermostat gauge in your house that many of us have that sets the temperature. See, when the child starts controlling the gauge, then you start reacting to it. Now, this is a very important part of the dance. Because when the child starts setting the temperature in the house and you start reacting, then the child is leading and the parent is following. Anytime that's happening, it's always going to be a recipe for disaster because ultimately, emotionally, the child is dependent on the parent for regulation, for core regulation when the child goes outside of their window of tolerance. If the child all of a sudden starts setting the thermostat, starts setting the temperature on the thermostat for the home, and the parents are reacting, then the parents aren't creating the regulation that needs to happen, and then the child ends up spinning out, the parents end up spinning out, and then you have two sets of these individuals. You have the mom, the dad, and you have the child both spinning out of control. Who's regulating who? Well, no one does. Eventually, you just go into exhaustion. And then once you go into exhaustion, everyone calms down, but it's really not calming down, it's being exhausted. You're settling down because you're exhausted, and then you just wait until it starts over and over and over again. And this is a conditioned negative feedback loop. So what's really important here is that as the parents, you have to learn to calm yourself. And as I said to the parent this evening on the coaching call, the number one thing that so much of what I'm teaching you all and what I'm sharing with you all and what I've been sharing for years and years and years now is conscious parenting. It is really asking you to take responsibility in a way that says, before I engage with my child, I am going to be conscious and mindful of my thinkings, my feelings, my attitudes, my moods, my behaviors. And then once I am centered and once I am present, I am then going to dial in. I'm going to dial in and connect with what's going on with my child. So that sets you up. It's like it is honing in your radar. It's like your radar is getting, or let's not use a radar. Let's think of a dial. So a dial on like a gun. I'm a country boy, so you have sights on a gun. And you have to dial that sight in to line up to hit your target. So when you're getting mindful and you're getting conscious, starting first with yourself, you're actually dialing in your sight and you're getting yourself present. You're getting yourself centered. And then after you've got yourself present and centered, then you're getting your child in your sight. See, now I'm very consciously focused on my child. Now I am lining myself up to be attuned to them. You should be able to be in your house. And this is, maybe for some of you, this will be a goal. Heidi says you have to have an emotional reserve to do that first, though. You do, and that is the essence. It's not about the emotional reserve. That is the essence of getting regulated. See, if you're in a home where everyone is completely stressed out, a lot of times what we end up asking the children to do is to start behaving before we regulate ourselves. We can't do that. It's not their responsibility. So you have to find some kind of way to find that emotional reserve, to find that emotional regulation, because it's within that regulation that you're going to create that reserve again. See, your tank's probably empty. So you got to figure out, what can you do? Ask yourself this question. And that's why I'm always wanting to bless you guys every single night with a night of rest and restoration and re-energizing, reinvigorated, so that at least I know that rest, I know that getting a good night's sleep is so important. And what I'll also say really quick is that sometimes when we get older, our hormones get out of balance. And that affects sleep, it affects mood. So sometimes some of you might really consider going and getting your hormones balanced. And I've spent actually the last 7 years running a couple of different medical clinics, because I'm an entrepreneur and I like doing stuff like that. Running a couple of medical clinics where we specialize in bioidentical hormones and hormone balancing. And I learned, it's like I've had this whole doctoral level education in hormones and how it affects moods and how it affects your physical being, your spiritual being, your emotional being. So some of you as parents may need to go and get your hormones checked by someone who actually knows what they're doing. I probably should talk about this on a whole different post-daily dose, because it's kind of going a little bit off of where I want to be, but to keep in line. So Heidi says, and if your child can't be without for extended periods, that's impossible. No, we can't operate within impossible. We can't operate with it. We can't use. So this is, Heidi, I'm just saying, I get so kind of obsessed about words. Think, if I came to you and I started using words like it is impossible. It is impossible. Think about how that energy I'd be sending to you. Think about how that would leave you feeling. And think about how I would have to be feeling if I use a word like impossible. We don't want to use a word like that. We have to change. See, just at a real core level, at the most basic level, guys. And this is important. So Heidi, I'm glad you made the comment, because this is so important. It's more important than anything else. And that's what I did a post daily dose on vibrations and the power of our thoughts and our words. I want to encourage you guys to go back and find that. I can't remember what episode it was, but I think the title was something about thoughts become things. Watch that, because it's so important. The words that we use are reflected in the vibrations in our body. And the vibrations in our body, which create these words, actually create vibrations outside of us and define vibrations in the home. So if I'm carrying around a vibration, that's impossible. That's all based in fear and stress and limitation. And let me tell you, Heidi, if you say, and if your child can't be without for extended periods. So what Heidi is telling me is that it's hard for her to be able to find an emotional reserve when her child can't be without her for extended periods. And that's important, because that says this is really tough for you. I get it. I mean, I'm feeling you. I'm feeling where you're at. What I'm going to tell you is that your child is emotionally regressed. That's why he can't be without you for extended periods of time. So now this is the way another negative feedback loop gets created. This is where you get children who chatter and talk nonstop, incessantly, because we get overwhelmed as parents. And when we get overwhelmed as parents, we get stressed, we start trying to rely on our reserves, and then we are not really meeting our children in the emotional need they're having. So it's like we're giving them half of us, and as we're giving them half of us, they sense that there's half of us and then there's another half that's gone. And then that actually creates more anxiety for them. So they start coming at us more, which exhausts us more, which is a negative feedback loop. When we start thinking about extended periods of time, nonsense chatter, absolutely. When we start thinking about extended periods of time, let's not think about extended periods. Let's think about that 5 minutes that I can get. What can you do, Heidi, in that 5 minutes that can be the beginning of restorative for you? In 5 minutes, maybe it's 3 minutes, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 1, right? We don't even have to do 5. Maybe it is 10 seconds of taking slow, deep breaths. Right there. Right there. See, 10 seconds. 10 seconds calms my anxiety, calms my stress, gets me present, opens up my thinking, opens up my heart a little bit more, gives me 10 seconds. And then it allows me to take a question like, what am I going to do next? What can I do next to create regulation for my child? It allows me to take that question and have a fresh perspective. Because maybe what I need to do is go to him. Maybe we're in that 5-minute window. See, he's operating within his window of tolerance. I go to him, I look at him, and I say, give me a hug. Give me a hug. Squeeze me. Squeeze me tight. And maybe I can't hug him. Maybe I go and I just sit wherever he's at, and I just think, and I don't even look at him. I just think, I love you. 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 I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love you. Forgive me. Forgive me. I love you. And then you get up and leave. That's vibration. That's how you're controlling energy. So you're controlling the energy. That's putting you in control. Doing something that simple is putting you in control of that thermostat in your home, where your child has previously had the control of that thermostat because they've been stressed out and overwhelmed. I'm getting a lot of comments here. I appreciate it, and some of them go faster. So yeah, shower, put makeup on. Oh, my mom loves to put her makeup on. I'll see my mom sometimes in the evening. I'll be like, Mom, where are you going? She's like, nowhere. And she's been doing this since I was a kid. She'd take a bath at night. She'd take a bath. She loves to take baths, bubble baths. She'll take a bath and then she'll put on full makeup, do her hair, full makeup. I'm like, are you going somewhere? And she's been doing this since I was a child. She still does it. Just the other day, I said, where are you going? And she was like, nowhere. I don't know why I keep asking that question, because she's been doing it forever. It makes her feel good. That's her time to create regulation. So you guys are taking me way off of, like I'm having a hard time getting back to where I was, but I think you're getting it, because I think it always ties together. All of this is connected. We're all connected. We're all connected. There's nothing but possibility. There's nothing but possibility that exists. I want you to know that. I want every single one of you to know that there is nothing but possibility. Even when it feels like it is impossible. Even when it feels like it is impossible, there's still nothing but possibility left, because we're still breathing. And as long as we're still breathing, we can still step into love. And as long as we can still step into love, there's still infinite possibilities. So just slow down. Slow down. Stop. Look at your child for 2 minutes, for 1 minute. They're giving you that incessant chatter. Just stop and look at them and say, I'm listening. Tell me more. Tell me more. Okay, thank you. Now, if you don't mind, Mom needs just a little bit of time. Then I'll come back and we'll play a game. I'll come back and we'll watch a show. I'll come back and we'll do something together. But Mom just needs a few minutes. Is that cool? Cool. But you have to give first. You have to give, because that's our responsibility as parents. We have to give before we can receive. We have to give. And you can do it. You can find it within yourself to do that. So if you're finding yourself out of sync with your child, if you're finding yourself that you're missing those cues, calm the stress. Get yourself regulated. Get yourself focused. Get yourself mindful. Because remember, in any given situation, we have two choices. We can continue to be misattuned, We can continue to be misattuned, and the longer we spend in misattunement, the more angry we're going to get, the more resentful, the more upset, the more stressed, the more scared, the worse we feel. We go to sleep at night stressed out. We're walking on eggshells. How many parents walk on eggshells because of their kids? No bueno. No bueno. Crush the freaking eggshells. I'd rather everyone be mad and screaming than walking on eggshells. Nothing feels worse than eggshells because it's the unknown. And for children with trauma histories, the unpredictable is the worst. And for parents, walking on eggshells is just being unpredictable. Hell, make it predictable. Just be mad. Just be mad. Make it predictable so everyone knows. I'm mad. You don't need to guess. I'm mad. I want everyone to know I'm mad, I am mad, I am mad. Now, no one needs to guess because I'm mad. So we all have those two choices. We can continue to be misattuned, fearful, angry, and resentful, or we can stop. We can take 3 to 10 deep breaths. We can take the minute that we can get. We can take the 2 minutes. We can take the 3. We can take the 5, the 10. We can take what we can. We can take a bubble bath. We can take a shower. We can put on our makeup. We can just sit and take some deep breaths and get really quiet. We can just sit and focus on love, 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 love. We can sit and focus on what we want to happen, not on what we don't want to happen. Focus on what we want to happen, not on what we don't want to happen. And in that process, we're choosing love. We're choosing love. Big Papa loves you. My hope, my prayer for you tonight is that when you lay your head down in your bed, your very comfortable bed, that number 1, that your home is warm if you are in a place of cold, and number 2, that you get a night of rest that is like angels dancing all over you, and the cells of your body just release all the cortisol and all the stress and all the worry and all the anxiety and all the trauma in your body. And then you wake up in the morning, you're restored, you're refreshed, you're re-energized, you're reinvigorated, and you're on fire for a new day to have hope, to have possibility, maximum possibility. I love you, and I hope you have a great evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.